Assalamualaikum and good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Political Insight.
40 minutes with political knowledge.
Tonight, 27th of November, Wednesday, with me, Daniel Aswan, and my co-host,
Khalid Fikriadi.
So, Khalid, how are you?
I'm good. What about you, Daniel?
Alhamdulillah, good. Nothing to do today. It's a very nice day today, and then it's not raining.
Did you have class today?
I have 2 classes.
Only 2 classes?
Yes,
right?
only 2 classes. The A31 cancel. Hey, we're not going to talk about classes today.
Come on.
So for tonight, our topic for Political Insight is much more interesting than last week. What happened? Astaga, it's okay.
Okay, it's okay.
Okay, so for tonight, it's very interesting. It's about the
understanding of the Hong Kong protest.
Yes, Hong Kong protest.
And we already have our guest for tonight, Daniel.
Yes, who is
Dr.
it?
Laws Away.
From our very own department, right?
Correct. He is a lecturer under the Political Science department, and he is graduated from the University of Bristol for the PhD, and finished his master as well as bachelor in the University Kebangsaan Malaysia.
National University of Malaysia.
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
University Kebangsaan Malaysia.
Okay, let's welcome him.
Welcome, Doctor. Welcome to Political Insight.
Thank you.
How are you, Doctor?
I'm doing good.
How many classes do you have today?
2 classes.
2 classes.
2 classes as well. What time, Doctor?
Mine is quite late.
After
my
lunch
class will be after lunch.
Interesting lah, after lunch. Okay, so since we're going to talk about the political insight, we're going to talk about the Hong Kong protest. So, Doctor, okay, let's begin with a simple question again. What is Hong Kong?
Now,
from your own perspective and history perspective, any kind lah.
I give some insight about Hong Kong through the historical perspective first. Last time, Hong Kong was with China since the dynasty era. After the Opium War, then they have agreed to they agreed to lease Hong Kong to the British colony at the time. So they leased it for 99 years, and in 1997, they hand it over back to China. But the problem is, during their colonization by the British Empire, everything is so westernized in the sense of they are following Western culture, they are practicing capitalism system, they are following the kind of democracy values, or at least they admire democracy value by the British side. Due to all this, but China is totally the opposite. They are a communist country, they are practicing socialism, all these things.
Correct.
Therefore, China government, during that time of handover, they agreed that within 50 years, they wouldn't give any changes. They won't make any changes to Hong Kong. Let it become as it is within 50 years. And there are a lot of issues happen here and there. So that comes to the protest. And the simple thing is that they do wish for kind of like a more democratic society. But China government don't really incline for that, practically. So very often in Hong Kong, although they're still practicing democracy values, especially like street protests, all these things, but they do have difficulties in organizing, in their opinion, a more free and more fair election, especially for their head of government, which is Chief Executive. So there's a brief about Hong Kong.
Oh, Chief Executive.
Yeah,
because
we call Prime Minister.
Oh, okay, Prime Minister.
We call Prime Minister. Certain country call President. For them, they call Chief Executive.
Oh, Chief Executive.
As the head of government.
Oh, is it because it's 2-system country?
Another thing that you're interested in is 1 country, 2 system, meaning within the country itself, Hong Kong is considered part of China, is considered within the same country, but they're implementing 2 different systems. In the sense of even the currency, they're using different currency.
Correct.
Even membership for international organizations, as long as it's not politically related, WTO, WHO, all this, they can stand alone as a member. Olympic, they stand alone as a member. So that's how we call 1 country, 2 system, in the sense of there's not much interference. That's part of the promise for 50 years.
So in United Nations, Hong Kong is not a
no, because they are not a country.
Similar like Taiwan lah.
Taiwan a bit complicated because Hong Kong is everybody agree that it is part of China and it is within their constitution. They call it SAR, Special Administrative Region, just like Macau.
Macau.
Yeah, their siblings is Macau.
But Taiwan is not lah. Taiwan is another country, right?
Taiwan is very complicated, long story.
That one can be another episode lah.
Yeah.
So, Doctor, can I say like Hong Kong is an autonomous region in the China?
Very high autonomous. Because in China, they have, as usual, like in Indonesia, in a lot of countries, they have direct municipal council, meaning they have their province level, So it's very common, the first type. Second type is those places, provinces like Shanghai, they're directly under control of federal government. Third type is autonomous region, like in Tibet, Xinjiang, all these places. Fourth type is this one, SAR. Third type, autonomous region, they're still using the same currency.
Okay.
They're still practicing a lot of the same value, just that they have higher autonomy. SAR, currency different, government different, they can have the election, everything's totally different. That's why they call SAR, Special Administrative Region.
So the Hong Kong government is more democratic compared to the China?
Depends on how you define democratic.
How do you define it?
Mean like this, if I cannot choose in the middle, I must choose yes and no. Comparatively, yes.
Okay.
But if the question is it really democratic enough, that will be another question.
Correct.
That's what the people of Hong Kong, especially those protesters, feel that they are not democratic enough. They want to have free election, they want to have fair election, not really happen. They want to have voters' right to vote the chief executive, they don't get it. So if you compare in that dimension, then they are not.
Okay, sir.
So you're saying that the people, Hong Kongers, when election, there's like in hand from China, from the mainland, is it?
What do you mean in hand?
I mean like intervention, because they don't have the free election, you said?
Make it like this. Both position, whether Hong Kong and China government, they say that they don't interfere. But it is quite an open secret over there that they do, to a large extent. And you can see from time to time, the intervention has become more and more. That's why the people in Hong Kong, especially now, they are more educated, they are more aware of the politics, they become more and more aggressive in that sense.
Aggressive.
Do the Hong Kongers, do they describe themselves as Chinese?
Definitely no. I would say,
Hong Kong.
I wouldn't say 100% because nothing is 100%.
Okay.
Most of them will say no. The reason is they don't really consider themselves as part of China. That's the reason. That's why from Hong Kong itself, you can see during these few years, right? Last time never happened before. During these few years, they even have the idea of Hong Kong independent, which is illegal.
Illegal?
Illegal in the sense of China Constitution is bigger than Hong Kong Basic Law, and it is illegal to split out any part of China's land out of China. Hong Kong independence meaning you're splitting Hong Kong out of China. So it is considered illegal in that sense.
All right, Doctor. Okay. That is a very interesting fact about Hong Kong and China, the intervention, the in hand or something. So we're going to talk more about this Hong Kong issue later after our commercial break. So you guys don't go anywhere. Stay tuned with Political Insight, yeah?
My name is Muhammad Shahid, a final year finance semester student from Political Science Department. So for Political Insight, I'll be sharing to you guys about Shared Prosperity Vision, or also known as SPV 2030. So what is SPV 2030? SPV 2030 is an economic policy paper that was introduced to achieve sustainable growth along with fair and equitable distribution across income groups, ethnicities, regions and supply chains. So basically the theme of this economic policy is inclusiveness, which means economic benefits reach all sections of society. So why Malaysian government introduced this SPV 2030? So the justification falls under few reasons. First, Malaysia's economic performance has been lagging behind other East Asian countries. Second, there's a huge income gap between employers and employees, social classes, regions and ethnic groups. Third, there's a low number of Bumiputra involvement in professional sectors. So what makes the SPV 2030 different from other economic policy initiatives that has been introduced before? Okay, in 1971, the new economic policy (NEP) has been introduced by National Operation Councils (NOC) to resolve the May 13, 1969 riot. So the NEP was aimed to achieve national unity, restructure socio-economic of the people, and reduce the number of poverties. So when we look at the objectives of the NEP and the SPV 2030, we may find a few similarities between the two policies, such as achieving social integrity by providing a fair economic distribution to the people. Although the document mentioned that NEP was an affirmative action policy that made a section of Bumiputra welfare, it cannot avoid itself from being contradicted when it mentioned in Chapter 9 of the document itself to give priority to the Bumiputra. So it is important to acknowledge the allocation given to other ethnic groups. But in this context, what exactly the differences between SPV 2030 and the previous economic policy that make it so different from others? Or is the economic policy the new NEP 2.0? I will leave this question for you to answer. That's all from me. Thank you for listening.
Come back to Political Insight, 40 minutes with political knowledge. So Daniel, we have been discussing a lot of things and about the
For
government,
the first
correct?
talking point,
I think you have the points.
So we can conclude that what we can say that the people you see they want like apa tadi nak cakap?
The
They want
government,
like
how they do-
a free without any intervention, right,
Correct.
doctor?
Yes.
That
And-
is what I can conclude, and I can understand what people want instead of what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving to our second talking point.
Doctor, we have, like the protest that currently happen in the Hong Kong. It has been taking place like for the past 6 months. It has started from the June, and what actually the main cause that triggered to this protest?
Actually, let me brief you first in the sense of street demonstration is very common in Hong Kong.
Okay.
There are a few events that every year they'll have it, at least the 4th of the June,
Yeah.
1st of July.
Yes.
All right. So it's very common to have protests there. Why this protest is so special about it? This can be considered during the June protest can be considered as one of the biggest protests in Hong Kong.
Yes. True.
A lot of pro-establishment, meaning those pro to Beijing government, usually they don't join in this kind of protest, but they did. Why? Due to extradition law.
Extradition
Due
law.
to extradition law. Because extradition mentioned that there was one story before this. There's a Hong Kong couple.
Okay.
They went to Taiwan. So the boyfriend killed his girlfriend
In Taiwan.
in Taiwan.
Okay.
Killed.
Oh.
Obviously known, everybody knows about that.
Okay.
He flew back to Hong Kong. The problem is nobody can do anything on him. The reason is the crime is committed in Taiwan.
Taiwan.
Hong Kong courts cannot judge him, cannot judge him. But at the same time, Hong Kong government cannot send him back to Taiwan due to the legal restriction.
Okay.
So what they're trying to do is now they come with a new law to allow the sending of anybody committed crime at anywhere back to the country for a trial.
Okay.
So Taiwan is not an issue. Nobody agreed and nobody argued that, it's wrong to send me back. Nobody argued about that. But their main concern is, in the future, if the law is passed, anybody, any Hong Kong people, they can be sent back to China for trial.
Okay.
For whatever, not to say whatever reason, there are some restriction in the sense of is to link with politics, if to link with something, some action that is not a crime in Hong Kong, you cannot send back. That's the legal part. But the practical part, people quite concerned is, can you really stop it? What if the action is being fabricated? So these are all the concerns. Then why this time, those business people used to be pro to Beijing, right? They join in as well. Simple reason, their official version is, they don't know at what time they'll step on the bomb, in the sense of they don't know any of their action indirectly and accidentally break the law in China. Because they are doing business, so they are having all the transaction here and there, they are not sure.
Okay.
So who knows they accidentally committed the mistake accidentally. So they worry that they'll be sent back, will be trial, all these things. So they are part of it that join it into the trial, into the protest. That's why the number is so huge. That's one of the sparking point. Then later on, the protest grew and grew and grew. And it's common. They have 5 demands for that. One of it is to retract back the bill,
Correct.
which has been done. And 4 more, the most of the things that cannot be done is they want the chief executive, Carrie Lam, to step down,
Yes.
which is nearly impossible. That's why they continue to protest every weekend.
Okay.
Because they're saying is that of the 5 demands, you must fulfill all.
Yes.
In Cantonese, they call 五大訴求，缺一不可. Literal translation is 5 demands, lacking of 1 also is a no. That's why the protests continue and continue and continue. Until the latest one, they even have the riots police went into the campus, university campus.
Wow.
Seriously, if you look at those videos, it is indeed like a war zone. I believe most of the Hong Kong people will agree that it is indeed like a war zone.
Yeah, because the voice of the students is really important in the country, right?
Yes, I would say. Because they constitute a big number of the people over there.
And I heard that most of the Protestants, those comes from the students.
in whichever, these recent years, right, in whichever protest, students will definitely join it.
Okay.
And students' proportion is not small. And it depends, like sometimes, right, if the protest is led by democratic leaders in the sense of politicians, it wouldn't go up to that aggressive or that violence. But if it is led by students, it can go up to this level. Putting aside the question of whether good or bad for democracy or for morality or this thing, but that can happen up to that level. So there's the difference between demonstration led by students or youngsters and demonstration led by those democratic political leaders.
Okay.
So why is it impossible for Carrie Lam to step down from being the chief executive?
First, she wouldn't.
Oh, she wouldn't.
Even
Okay.
if she's willing also, I doubt China government is willing to accept.
Oh yeah, because she's the puppet, I read.
Even if Chinese government is willing to accept also, how are you going to guarantee that the next person couldn't be
Pro-Beijing.
her siblings at pro-Beijing? It's like a lot of factors, but until this moment, I wouldn't dare to say that's definitely no, due to all the development and due to the latest district council election as well. It's totally a tremendous one. So I wouldn't say 100% no, but from the history, it will never. Even the previous chief executive, he is surrounded by a lot of scandals also. Nobody managed to force him down.
All right. So then how does the Hong Kong government respond to this kind of issue?
The first part, I mean, the first stage, usually they say, oh, they are riots, they are protesters, it's not good, and this is common, the generic version. Later on, after the district council election, thing changes. Because usually the result for this election will be very pro to those political parties that align to Beijing government, meaning pro-Beijing government, usually, for district level. But this time, the result is totally the other way around. It means that the voices of the people is there. So you want to hear or not? Before this, you can say, oh, they are just minority. Even 1 million, 2 million is just a small part.
Just a small part.
But now the election result shows like that. Can you deny? Nobody denies. Even politicians from the pro-Beijing parties, they also don't dare to deny. So that will be the difference at this stage.
So there are parties which is pro to Beijing, and there are parties that pro more to Hong Kongers.
I wouldn't say Hong Kong, I would say they pro more to so-called democracy. That's why the term used is literal translation, pro-establishment, and pro-democracy / non-pro-establishment.
I see. So we can know that don't you think that the government should really support the people of the Hong Kongers actually said?
What do you mean support first?
I mean like allowing the extradition law.
At first they're quite reluctant. Until one moment, they already take it back. But the problem is, as we mentioned just now, 5 demands, right?
Yes.
One of it hasn't been fulfilled.
Yes.
True.
4 more, the
No.
government did not address at all, did not intend to address at all. That's why the protests continue and continue, even though they had already take back the law.
I believe there are a lot of discussion that we are going to talk more, Daniel.
Especially about the demand, the 5 demand.
Correct. But before
4
that,
left, yes.
see you after the break.
Yeah.
Lapar lah. Alah, lapar lah. Oh, dia macam. Nak makan apa ni?
Bumbulu ni, bumbulu ni.
Pembuluh ni tu kat sini kan? Tidak. 1, 2, 3. Bomboloni! Bomboloni! Bomboloni!
Bombolone, bombolone, bombolone. RM2 satu, RM2 satu. Bombolone.
Welcome back to Political Insight. 40 minutes with political
knowledge.
knowledge. So Daniel, we've been discussing a lot about the 5 demands, right?
5 demands. Now we can continue with the 5 demands. 5 demands, one has been fulfilled, another 4
Okay.
tak lagi.
And we are going to talk, continue our discussions with Dr. Law.
Okay, so Doctor, so continue back to the earlier discussion about the 5 demands kan. The number 1 will be there's 5 and one has been fulfilled, which is they lifted the what they call that?
The extradition
Yeah,
bill.
extradition law. So the another 4 extra I forgot except for the Doctor, continue.
One of it is to redefine 6/21 incident, because in June 21st they're trying to like make a second reading for the bill.
Okay.
So those protesters, they block at they call legislative council, just like our parliament. They call legislative council. They block over there, and the government or the police, they define that as riots. Define those people as rioters. So they want that definition to be redefined. Right, number 1.
It's riot lah.
Which is actually depends on political view. If you want to do it, you can do it. Second one is they want to establish an independent kind of commissions to investigate all these incidents.
Okay.
And they want those protesters being charged in court due to these incidents, not to say this incident particular, for the whole durations to be dropped. All this thing is still about political views. As I said, one of it is for Carrie Lam to step down. You can fulfill that, the rest will be comparatively easier.
But sir, don't you think that extradition law can bring the positive itself for the criminals?
Make it like this. The government side
Okay.
give all the positive version, which makes sense. If you look in a neutral position without thinking about conspiracy thing, it makes sense.
Okay.
Come on, they are criminals.
Yes.
Sending back, what's the problem?
Correct.
But the problem is, if the law is being manipulated, what they are concerned most, like I said, the business people, they're concerned that they overstep those accidentally committed actions.
Okay.
What about those commoner? The restriction is you cannot send a person back to China or to any other places, number 1, based on political belief,
Okay.
including political action, political speech, political whatever political. Second thing is you cannot send him back if the crime is not a crime in Hong Kong.
Okay.
This is a common principle for extradition.
correct.
For example, they don't have royalty. If you insult royalty, they cannot send you back because it is not a crime over there. Makes sense also, right?
Correct.
But they worry that what if, due to their political actions, they did not commit a crime, but the Chinese government fabricates some kind of action that can be extradited. For example, you steal something, you cheat somebody, you do some kind of crime, which by the law you can send them back. All right, this is their main concern. That can you be guaranteed that those people will not be sent back based on political actions?
Okay. Anything that you want to ask more, Daniel?
No. Just continue because I'm thinking of the.
And how much the support do they support against from the government side so far?
The Hong Kong government.
From who? From who to who?
From the government to the Hong Kongers
Support
until this time.
Oh, you mean how much support do they get?
Yes, correct.
Honestly, support is very subjective to measure.
Correct.
So you can deny it. You say we have 1 million, 2 million protesters. You can say, come on, it's just a small minority. You can deny it. So until few days back, one of the best indicator is district council election.
Okay.
All right, they have 2 type of election. I mean, actually they have 3: chief executive one, legislative council like our parliament one. Then they have district local elections. District local election, Hong Kong voting rate somewhere 50% plus minus. This time, broke the record. Whole
For the first
duration
time
record, 71.2%. You can imagine the gap. Number 2 is this council, they have 18 councils, right? All the council usually will be dominated by pro-establishment.
Pro-establishment would be
The one that pro to the government, pro to the Beijing.
Okay.
Or in Hong Kong, they call as blue.
Blue.
All right,
Okay.
pro-democratics, they call as yellow.
Yeah.
Now, surprisingly, out of the 18 council, Yellow, meaning those pro-democrats,
Uh-huh.
they managed to win 17 out of 18 in the district council election. Imagine from not being a kind of incumbent or not being kind of like strong supporters, they managed to form majority in 17 of it. And one of it is because a portion of it are appointed members. And these appointed members, they are quite pro the establishment. So if you put that aside, almost 18.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so you can imagine from that onwards, people started to apologize. People started to say, we want to listen to the people all this thing, because the election result shows otherwise. This is one of the best indicator.
So, sir, like the democratic values is not really being exercised in Hong Kong.
What depends on how you define democratic values.
Okay, okay.
If you're talking about freedom of speech,
Okay.
freedom of protest, all these things, right, compared to other countries, they are much more better.
Yes.
Talking about elections, one of the elections that they oppose the most is chief executive. They don't have a voice. They cannot choose.
Okay.
1,200 people can choose from the election commission. But the problem is, it's quite impossible for a commoner to go into the 100 to 1,200. You can, but usually you will form minority. That's why almost certain that chief executive will be coming from those whoever that the Beijing government wants.
Okay. Is there any still like the relationship between the because as we know that Hong Kong was colonized by British before,
Mhm.
and then being handed over to the Chinese government in 1997, sir. So do the Hong Kongers like more comfortable under the hand of the
British
Britain
or the China.
or the China?
Maybe like this, if there's no third option,
Uh-huh.
Okay.
they will prefer British in that sense of the value, the practice, everything.
Okay. What do you mean by practice everything?
Freedom of speech, those democratic
Okay,
values.
those
Yeah.
democratic values.
If you really give them a choice, ask them to go for a referendum, I don't dare to guarantee anything. But at least from what you can see is because they're used to that system, freedom, you can give your voice, everything.
True.
So now they are so-called under a kind of a more authoritarian government, a communist government, which is going to control your freedom, which they don't really like it. And there are a lot of instances where a lot of people who commit against the Chinese government, criticizing them or whatever, they've been taking action silently.
Okay.
One of the examples that they love to give is one of the bookshop owner. He used to sell those books that is banned in China, which is critical to Chinese government, China,
Oh, yes,
communist
I read
leader,
about
and so
that
on.
news. Okay.
He has been sent.
Mm-mm.
So action will be taken against him. So their concern, back to the extradition law, is
Extradition law.
if you don't like me, you can use other kind of crime to say
Okay.
I commit, then you send me back.
Okay.
Who can I ask for help? That's their main concern.
So this is what they afraid of, what the Hong Kongers
Yes.
afraid of
Yes.
from passing the extradition law.
Yes.
I
And
see.
it is like a sparking point in the sense of due to this law, the protests continue. Then they can force the chief executive to step down. So it's like continue to develop and develop and develop.
Okay.
There's no single, you can just call it as a sparking point. It's no single issue that will cause the protester to be so massive.
Okay. Daniel, we've been discussing a lot of things.
Uh-huh.
And have you been to Hong Kong?
No.
You haven't been there.
No.
What about you, sir? Have you been to Hong Kong?
I've been there once only,
Once. When was it?
quite some time ago.
Quite some time ago.
But Hong Kong is a very huge city to be visited, right?
Sort of.
When you were there, do you feel the same things like you are in China? Have you been to China?
Yes.
Okay, so
It actually is
what
totally
is the
different
feeling?
because in Hong Kong, right, put aside politics,
Okay,
it is just like another developed place.
okay.
Just like Singapore, maybe
yeah.
just like Kuala Lumpur.
True, true.
Put aside politics.
Uh,
When politics involved, things changes.
Okay. But you feel secure, right, once you
In Hong Kong, right,
Hong Kong.
is among the most secure city in whole Asia.
oh,
Wow.
really?
Yeah, among.
And they do speak English as
Yes.
well, right?
And
So it's-
even their corruption rate is among the best. I mean, the least corrupt
least
country in the
corrupt.
whole ASEAN.
The
Wow.
corruption in among the politicians, right?
Among
Because
everything.
Everything.
Government, private sector, whatever it is.
Oh.
Because they have a very strong anti-corruption agency. That is another long story. Because last
Yeah.
time, Hong Kong is very corrupt. Corrupt
Oh.
to the
During the British time, is it?
yes.
Oh.
Due to the culture, due to a long story, but in short is that even if you are in hospital, you want to ask for a blanket, you
Okay.
need to bribe the nurse. Your house get fired, you ask the fire officer to help you put off the fire.
Okay.
You need to think of some way to bribe them. So it's like, it's common. But from there, become Hong Kong like today.
Oh.
Thanks to ICAC, the
I see.
Independent Commission Against Corruption.
Ah, that's very
It's
interesting.
a very famous one.
Yeah. It's very good thing. At least the people change from being
Yeah.
something corrupted to something good.
But it's not easy.
Because it's
Yeah.
not easy to
Yes.
The
change.
process is not easy.
How many years?
Quite a short period of time. Because
Okay.
British use full force. Because last time, among the corrupted one are the police officers. ICAC, they are laymen.
Okay.
So you're going against a police force.
Okay.
And almost all of them, they're corrupted. Directly or indirectly. So you want to catch them, whole police going to like surround your building, all these
Yeah.
things.
True.
British government, British colonies at the time, they said, they're going to send army.
Mhm.
So they go all out, police fight against army. It kind of can be balanced.
Correct.
If without the army, I believe it wouldn't work. That's why this one, yeah, you have to thanks to British in the sense of they're willing to spend their money, their human power, their everything to make a Hong Kong,
Hong
a
Kong
place
like
like that.
today.
Yes, whether they have their personal interest or not, definitely they have.
Of
But at the
course.
same time, the conclusion you can see is it is more clean.
So supposedly they were supposed to send the British Army, right?
I'm not
At the
sure whether they
very front, yeah.
physically send or not, but I believe they
Ah.
do. If not, police is the force with weapons.
Mm-hmm.
ICAC is without weapon. I mean, they do have here and there, but generally they are without.
Mm. So I believe, sir, like as you mentioned earlier, that the government achieved a very, at the least, corruption, and they have what we call it, like built the country as Hong Kong today, Daniel. And we believe like the post and pre-materialist, right, whereby the people already have the powers, then already have the money, then they will ask for the powers, for the positions,
Correct.
and that's what happened in Hong Kong.
One of the interesting thing is that in 1997,
Mm-hmm.
Hong Kong GDP is about quarter of whole China GDP.
Quarter.
Yes,
Whole China.
Okay.
Meaning-
wow.
something goes wrong with Hong Kong,
Uh-huh.
it affects China.
Okay.
Now it's only 3%. 3% of Hong Kong, the whole China GDP.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's why they're willing to do a lot of take a lot of political actions against Hong Kong.
One thing that makes me interesting lah kan, because earlier we was talking about the support of the support from
Support.
the support that supporters
From the
gain.
government. Okay.
What I like the most about my reading earlier this week is that support riots happening mostly around the public transport area, and they shut the whole thing.
Yes, true.
Yeah, that one is very very cool. I mean, like, because transportation, I guess it's private in Hong Kong, or it's government owned.
It is a bit similar with a lot of countries, even in
Uh-huh.
Malaysia, it's like it's private, but
but-
government have quite a big share in it.
Uh-huh.
Why they cause troubles onto all these things?
Uh-huh.
The simple reason is they want to like causes
people
economic hindrances, causes stagnance,
Yeah.
all these things towards the whole society. When the economy is stagnant, when the economy get affected, when people's life get affected, they hope that people force the government even more. So that's their
Ah.
strategy. That's why they are disrupting the public transportation, disrupting the officers and all these things.
Ah.
But things turn violence. That's why considering violence as part of it, what they are doing is right or wrong is very hard, very subjective. But if everything is peaceful, I believe people can accept it more. But same case is everything is peaceful, government can just ignore it.
Yeah.
So it's like it couldn't give a balancing point or a line. Where should they stop and where should they start?
Okay. I just want to know, like, what is the majority, the religions in Hong Kong?
I believe it's Christianity.
Christianity.
I believe. I
Ah.
don't dare to say for sure. I believe it's Christianity.
Because
In terms of practicing,
Okay.
not the nominal religion, the
Uh-huh.
practicing religion, because it was under British before.
Yes.
And look at Christmas, they have a lot.
Christmas. Yeah. Okay. One final question, Doctor, before we end. Why does protest can even in Thailand back in 2005 or 6, even now in Hong Kong, they focus more on the public transportation like airport, trains. Why, Doctor?
Because if you disrupt public transportation,
Uh-huh.
everybody get affected.
Correct.
Simplest way. But whether people like it or not, there'll be another story. People can say, okay, never mind, I support you. At the same time, another opposite is, you're causing trouble to my life. I can't even go to work.
Uh-huh.
That's why even though the voting rate is 70%, we couldn't we couldn't predict these people go towards which side.
Okay, I believe that there are a lot of things to be discussed more.
Yes,
But
very
before
interesting.
that, we are going. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at IUMTV, and also follow the POSA IIUM.
On Instagram,
And-
Twitter as well.
Yes.
So before we end our program for tonight, again, thank you, Doctor, for
Thank you.
for
Thank
coming
you.
to our
Thank you for
program.
having me too.
Hope to see you guys again on another political insight. Again with all of us. Thank you for
Okay,
viewing us.
thank you.
See you again. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, good night.
Good
Good night.
night. Stay tuned for the next.